Coach, it wasn't obviously the most beautiful game, but you guys seemed to find something there once you looked like Jay came back in and gave you a spark. What would you attribute to kind of the kind of, I don't know, resurgence there in the second half?
I thought we got off to a good start. And defensively, it was a bit spotty, to be honest. Credit to Navy, those guys. 22, he's got a shot where he puts it behind his head and you can't get to it. And at times we were a little slow to the shooters, and there were some breakdowns there. But they hit a pretty tough three to end the half. The kid kind of went to work in the post to start. Some turnovers, and then the zone sort of tightened us up. Then we made some substitutions, and I thought that group did a good job. Jay blocked some shots. Keyha's stat line, you look at 13 assists, but we got some buckets in transition. And so we needed those because our man-to-man offense was pretty solid. But once they went to that zone, we were having a hard time, even with some good looks, not making them. But some key stops, blocks, and I think the transition points that came from that run helped us. And again, it was, I was happy to see what Braxton, Jay, and then Keyhay did in that setting. I was happy that obviously Casey knocked down a three for us, which he hasn't been shooting well, but he hit 2 threes, and hopefully he'll keep being confident.
Tony, you only had 8 turnovers, but 7 of them in the second half. You guys went 11 minutes with 1 basket. Does that all tie together? Is that just kind of a panic mode, or how do you kind of explain that?
Sometimes we got trapped in the post a couple times, some careless turnovers that sort of piles up, and it was mostly against the zone. We missed a couple open shots, and anytime if that's 7 turnovers, because I think we had 1 or 2 to start the one at the half, that's a chance. We talked about that in the South Carolina game. It was 19 turnovers, so even if you're not shooting a great percent, that's still a point. That's 1 less possession at the rim, so it costs you points, and you can't play perfect, and then you get a little tentative. Zones have a way of making you stand. We were trying to find different actions, but I think it was a bunch of things, and you hated to see that stretch because I thought we played good ball, but we weathered the storm, so to speak, got some transition buckets, and beat a pesky Navy team for sure.
Coach, it looked like you were trying to get into offense faster. Had Keyhay bring it up faster. It didn't necessarily shoot faster all the time, but just trying to establish rhythm on that end?
Yeah, no, it's certainly if, trying to get down the floor, get into offense, even if it was against a zone or a man. And so, that was very observant, and I'm glad that you saw that because we worked on that. And, again, if you have something really great, if you don't, at least you have more time and maybe you loosen up the defense.
Coach, how nice was it to see Brax get sort of back to being himself a little bit? Didn't seem like the wrist was bothering him as much. Is the cast the same, and how good was it to see him doing the same?
It's continued to be modified. It's a little smaller, a little more streamlined, although it still looks pretty club-like on there. But, we know this process well from Keyhay, going through what you start with and how it, you got his safety and his health is always the first priority, but then getting it to where 2 things, you get used to playing with it, and mentally and physically, and then as time goes by, as long as the x-rays and the doctors are good with it, you streamline it more and more so you have a little more dexterity or mobility with it, and I thought, he did some good stuff.
Coach, when you have a scoring crowd like that, do you want to focus on getting the ball inside, or you just looking for the best shot, or what's the focus?
Well, you try to hang your hat on the defense. You say, all right, let's get stops, but we try to go inside, but I think you have to take a quality shot when it presents itself, because when we went inside, that's where they ran some traps at us and we turned it over. We had a couple of characteristic things. So depending upon what defense they're playing, you want to be some of the inexperience shows you want to be assertive. You want to look. You'd like to penetrate. You'd like to get aggressive stuff, and you just feel a little of that uneasiness, which is part, again, of inexperience, and then some of those turnovers cost us. So I don't think you can say we just go inside. A lot of times that is what you try to do, get a touch. And we had a couple buckets off a little action we run that helped us, and it was enough with the transition buckets and them missing a few shots.
Coach, it was in the 40s somewhere. They took the lead briefly, and Braxton blocked a shot and then got the and one on the other end. Does his steadiness, is it noticeable within the team when he's playing more minutes like that, just because he does so many kind of little things?
Yeah, as he's healthy, he's our probably our best rebounder and most physical player. And again, he knows how to help defense and has the most experience. You know, he and Mamadi and Key have the most experience. So, you know, without him, we were trying to find it. But that was, I thought, seeing him emerge and play, you know, he's steadily gotten more time and played better, and we needed it. But, you know, I just keep challenging him to be as great as he can defensively, all over the glass, and then keep finding ways to be effective offensively. And he did that. So it definitely steadies us as much as we can be steadied at times.
Coach, this is obviously not your ACC opener, but next Saturday, you get the time off, and then you get Tech. You start your ACC season in earnest. What do you think of the Hokies, and what's your thought process going into preparing for them?
I haven't watched them much. I know they're a terrific three-point shooting team. They might, I don't know if they lead the country in percentages and makes and all that. And you talk about opening up the court and you know, running good stuff, playing scrappy, quality opponent. You know, that's all you have in our league. And there's a lot of newness to it, and obviously new coaching staff, but certainly respect what they do, and they have played some good basketball in stretches, really good. So we've got to be as ready as we can and keep preparing. It's about us improving and keep trying to find some chemistry, and I told the guys who didn't play as much, keep staying ready. You just don't know. So good.